guess you'll administer the oath of office for re-elected board
Yes,
members.
we do have Ms. Burrow here that works in central office, and thank you so much for being here, Cherie, and she will do the oath of office for our newly elected board, well, not necessarily elected, but our board members, and so we ask that y'all would go up to the front, and so she can.
Mr. Laney, Ms. Harper, and Dr. Love. Kind of come stand, maybe an angle towards me this way. Yeah, if you want to come up here.
Good job, Grant.
If you'll raise your right hand and then just repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of school board member of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God. Okay, and I believe you already all have your certificates.
Corinne, would you please lead us in the invocation, please?
Sure, please bow your head with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight humbly with praise and thanksgiving for all that you have given us. Thank you for the gifts of the administration, the staff, the teachers, but most importantly, the students who we are here to serve. As we draw the school year to an end and we look forward to visiting with family and friends this summer, help keep all of our students and our staff healthy and safe. We ask that you protect us and guide us over the next year and help our hearts to reflect what you have created us for. This evening, we ask that you give us courage, wisdom, and faith to make decisions that are in the best interest of this community and of the students so that we can be better together. We ask all these things in your loving name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Mark, would you lead us in the pledges, please?
Yes, please join me. Pledge to the U.S. flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Judge, would you please share the vision statement and shared beliefs, please?
Fredericksburg ISD students are inspired to be successful and innovative in a diverse and changing world. Fredericksburg mission statement: Fredericksburg ISD partners with families, students, and community to provide a safe and supportive learning environment. We excite the imagination of every student. We engage them in relevant, compelling learning experiences in order to prepare for life in a diverse global society.
Tonight we have 3 public comments, and before I read them, I just want to make it clear this board cannot talk about and/or act on these comments tonight. The first one is from Allison. Please release 2021 calendar, how you intend to run school as soon as possible, as we need to make plans. Number 2 from Allison. Reject this COVID nonsense. It doesn't add up. Not even as large a threat as the flu, and no one shuts down for that. Resume normal school for 2021 and release your intents ASAP so we as parents can plan accordingly. Number 3 is from Kelly. 2021 school year. If the school year begins online, will there be more teacher instruction interaction with the students via Zoom or other forms? Only had one teacher initiate a Zoom conference this semester, and it was not instructional. Thank you to those that sent those in. We'll take it under further advisement. Jeff, Billy Pride recognition?
Well, I'm excited. We've got three amazing people that we want to recognize this evening. The first one, of course, is our Employee of the Month. She is Ariel Cantu, and I wish so much these people could be here this evening so we could truly give them the recognition that they deserve. But Ms. Cantu works, of course, at the primary school, and she was recommended, or nominated, excuse me, by Sandra Jacoby, and she is a science lab assistant. And so a lot of great things to recognize Ms. Cantu for, but she's, of course, most recognized for going above and beyond in the lab. And so as teachers rotate their kids through there, she really has gained that recognition for just being an outstanding team player and really going above and beyond to making sure that her students are being served. Her staff also said that she loves the kids, and it's apparent the way she treats them and interacts with them, that she develops a great relationship and a great rapport with her students. And when I asked Ms. Dietrich for a quote, she says, Ariel has gone above and beyond as an instructional assistant by providing videos and materials for the students she serves in the science lab. So anyway, she is a stand-up employee, and it's recognized not only by, of course, our building principal, but also by the staff members, and she demonstrates that through her love of her kids and going above and beyond. So Ms. Cantu, thank you for listening, for all that you do, and for being such a great FISD employee. The second one we would like to recognize tonight is Miss Stephanie Gonzalez. Miss Gonzalez is the elementary teacher of the month. And again, she was recognized by Miss Valerie Bond. She is a fourth grade math and science teacher. And again, there's so many great things to share about Miss Gonzalez, but just a few highlights. You know, again, what really stands out is that great rapport with kids, you know, because we all know if you can get their heart, then you can get their mind. And I think a lot of times what separates a good teacher from a great teacher is that they know how to seek out and find the heart of that student. They develop that connection, they develop that relationship. And once you do that, those kids, allow you just to pour into them. And Ms. Gonzalez does a phenomenal job of making that happen. And as stated by the recommendation, just great rapport with kids. Also, she's recognized by the staff as a great leader as she leads PLCs. And another great quality, I think, of a great teacher is that she's always very, very positive and supportive with parents, with faculty and staff, with students, and with administration. And I think that shows the kind of person that she is, a person of integrity, has a passion for kids and for learning, and that's demonstrated each and every day. I did ask Ms. Ward for a quote as well, but she did say that Stephanie is a gifted teacher. Stephanie came to us from the secondary level, but has adjusted to and excelled at the elementary level. She is a pioneer when it comes to technology and supports her team and the campus in moving forward in this area. Stephanie is the math lead for her team and has provided great leadership. She's a fast learner and willing to take on new learning and incorporate it into her practice. She is well-liked, well-respected among the staff, and seen as someone that the campus can go to for support in the areas that she excels. FES is proud to have Stephanie represent us as the April Teacher of the Month. So congratulations. Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez, for being an amazing teacher and impacting our kids daily. And last but not least is from the high school, our Teacher of the Month, Miss Rochelle Wilson. Miss Wilson was, of course, nominated by our amazing high school principal, Joe Gonzalez, and she works at the UT On-Ramps physics class. Joe says that Miss Wilson is a risk taker. She branches out to innovatively offer the UT On-Ramps physics course, allowing her to challenge her students and providing unique opportunities to be successful in the classroom. She challenges students each and every day to go above and beyond their own limits and work collaboratively while capitalizing on group and individual strengths. And so our On-Ramps was a new program this year. So, she's challenging a really difficult curriculum and a new program, working with UT, and it has just done an outstanding job. So anyway, thank you, Ms. Wilson, for being a great person and a great teacher, and again, making a difference in the lives of our FISD students. So
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you for them.
Next is consideration and approval of consent agenda items. Did everybody have time to review those, and were there any questions? I know I had a question as it related. Wanted to talk with Deborah, let Deborah talk a little bit about Q, impact of COVID-19 budget and future budget, just so we're all on the same page of how it's affected us, if that's okay.
Well, it is a moving target all the time as we're trying to figure out what's been affected and what kind of funds we may or may not receive. But the best that I can estimate at this time is with the additional costs that we'll have in the general fund and some of the decrease costs also because we didn't finish school, and so there's a lot of contract services and travel that we didn't have. The daycare will be a little bit of additional loss because nobody's been there for April and May. So net effect on the general fund will be about zero between all those ups and downs. The school nutrition fund will be in the hole quite a bit. And we thought that we were going to get some FEMA emergency funding for that because one of the allowable expenditures is feeding people. And on school nutrition, we have almost 100% of the costs, but only about 20% of the revenues. So we will lose somewhere between $250,000, $350,000 in school nutrition between the loss of revenues and into the general fund. We will not get about $100,000 to $140,000 of indirect costs. So the school nutrition will affect the general fund in that manner because they're not going to have the money to give us because of these loss of revenues. We did find out that from FEMA, because it is federal money that we're already receiving for school nutrition, they're not going to allow that difference for FEMA.
So Deborah, in my simple way of putting it, I mean, this is another unfunded mandate.
Not exactly. We were not mandated to feed people. We were allowed to feed them.
Okay.
And we chose to do that, as most school districts did.
Sure.
Yes. And then we did purchase the additional 500 laptops, $332,000, which we came to you, and that was going to come out of bond funds. I do believe we will get the CARES funding due to COVID-19. We're hoping that tomorrow we will find that out. A lot of agencies have already found out the money they're receiving. Public school districts have not found that out yet. And that will also be shared with the private schools. And so as soon as we find out that number, I am hoping that it's going to approximate our Title I funds. And so hopefully all of those laptops will be able to be paid with those funds because we ordered those because of this need, because of COVID-19. So we're hoping that in the end, it's not that huge of an impact with all of the adds and subtracts. We know that we've paid a lot of salaries and haven't had 100% of the work from people, obviously, when they can't come in and do all the work that they need to do. But hopefully it will not be that bad because of all the additional funding that we're getting.
Thanks for the update. Any other questions on the consent agenda items? I'd entertain a motion to accept consent agenda items A through Q.
I so moved.
Judge seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Superintendent's report.
We'll go to new business.
Oh, sorry about that. I missed that. New business and action items.
Okay. Well, probably Ms. Summers can speak on this more than me, but we put this on the agenda at this point in time, wanting to amend our District of Innovation, thinking that we could be able to go out and get some more affordable health insurance options. But since we put this on there, then I think that TRS Active Care went down. And so, but I still think it would be a good idea to have this available in case, I guess, as we're looking around, maybe we could find possibly some more affordable options for our staff. Anything you want to add to that, Ms. Altmers?
No, other than at this point, we just want to have it in the District of Innovation plan so that in the event a more affordable option becomes available, that we can make that happen quicker. Yeah, and so right now, they thought that they would be cheaper and had been cheaper. This is the first time that TRS Active Care has gone down in a very long time, So I think I put a paper on each of your places that show the new rates. Dental and vision is staying the same, but they have a new plan, which is called a primary plan, which is very much like an HMO. And so you're going to have a primary doctor and you have to be referred for everything. And so those rates are a little lower. The percentage change for that is comparing to the other lowest plan that we had, because there was no plan last year. So that's like a 2% increase for employee only and employee and spouse, but then when you add the children family, it goes down 4% and 8%. And then the other, it's kind of interesting, they were asking us, what groups should we decrease? And there were a lot of people that were saying decrease on the children and the families. And so you can kind of see that here. Those were the percentages that went down and not just employee only. The primary plan plus is a rename of an existing plan that we had. So we have probably about 65% of our employees on that, the third plan down at the bottom, or the third one over across the top. And those rates did go down 8% across the board. So hence, that's why the other plan that we thought we would be able to get into, they didn't go down because they didn't think TRS was going to go down. So at least it is a little bit of a decrease for our employees, and so we'll stick with this one for this year, but if we can ever move into another plan, we'll have that option. The only caveat at this point is at least one person in the district must be on TRS Active Care. So if it ever gets to the point where we offer a second plan and people are choosing and people seem to be moving over, we're going to have to figure out which employee has to stay on the plan and how they're going to be compensated for the difference.
So, of course, the recommendation is that y'all approve the resolution as presented to amend our District of Innovation.
So as a board resolution, it'll automatically amend it, or does it have to go get approved by TEA?
I believe that the site base had already voted unanimously to approve that, and so then it's up to y'all. And then I'm sure we'll have to send that copy in to TEA, and then they'll review that.
Okay.
But really, they don't approve it anyway. I think we just have to submit it, and they have to have it on file.
Okay.
That's always worked.
So moved?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, Jeff, now we're on to superintendent's report. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right, first thing, just kind of bring the board up to, of course, we called it the COVID update just because there's just a lot going on. Our students, of course, are not in the classrooms, but that doesn't mean that people aren't working hard and people are extremely busy. But a couple things I just wanted to share with y'all, and I think as a team, we were kind of wanting to hear some of the board's feedback. But anyway, on the last two conversations we've had with the commissioner, he had gave us superintendents across the state some guidance on some various calendars. Some you call that intersessional calendar, but the whole idea was for us to look at our current calendar. We would still go 76,500 minutes or more. We weren't really looking at adding a whole lot of days, but just spreading our calendar out over a year. And the reason we were at least exploring this idea is to give us some flexibility in case we have another COVID shutdown. And so our leadership team, our principals, we've been kind of reviewing some different calendars. And so we're going to meet again tomorrow. We're going to come up with 2 or 3, maybe 4 different samples. Then we want to take that to the district site-based committee. and have them review it. And so, of course, one of those, and what a lot of schools are doing across the state, are they're just staying with their regular calendar. Now, the problem with that is, and what they're planning on doing, if we have to shut down, then they're just going to extend school on into June and potentially July, depends on how long that we're shut down. But by building in some time, it gives us some flexibility. If we do shut down, then we have those days built in, and then we can continue moving forward. If not, then we have the option, we have the flexibility of taking that time off, or we could, then we could remediate kids. We know that kids have lost a lot of instruction. There's some gaps in their learning, so we could identify which kids that would, of course, add to our budget, as we would need to hire teachers to provide them with that support. But I think we could get more school in prior to our STAR and EOC assessments as well. So I think that would serve them better as well. But of course, we know this would impact potentially our community and teachers in various ways, so we need to take all that into consideration. I've had some feedback from some parents as well with some extenuating circumstances, and I think I forward one email to y'all for y'all to review. But and I know I've had some board members reach out to me too and want us to explore maybe some different options as well. So we kind of wanted to hear from the board as well as we move forward with our next meeting, maybe get some feedback from kind of what y'all are thinking, so we have maybe some clear direction on what we need to do.
How would remediation work? I mean, how would it be voluntary? Would it be, I mean, how would we identify, what tools would we use to identify students who would, benefit from remediation? And then how would that be enforced?
Well, I don't think it could be enforced, but we would certainly, take benchmarks at the end of each quarter. So that was one example, was building in at least 1 week at the end of each quarter, at the end of that 6 or 9 week period. And once we identify those kids that have the most significant gaps, then we could, at least offer that to them. Of course, it'd be up to the parents, or they send them or not. But then we would just, of course, identify which texts that they're struggling with, and then we would remediate in those particular texts.
So it would be recommended, but voluntary.
Correct.
But there'll be some of those that would be at, if they're not going to pass, if they're not on a projection to pass their end-of-course exams, and then, that's a pretty big incentive.
It really is. And that would certainly be discussed between the teacher or the principal and that parent, and say, hey, it's your option, but if you don't, just know that they might fail the year, or, fail the STAR. And so, yeah, that would be the reason why we bring them in.
Is that, go ahead. So the idea, is there some discussion in the state to say, hey, build in some flex time if you want to, or is this?
Well, the commissioner, again, has made that, I would say, he's kind of made the argument the last 2 times that we meet every Tuesday and Thursday, and he's brought up different calendars. Some schools have been doing this for quite some time. Even Ms. Chalberg said that they did that in one of her districts, and it was very well received. Dr. Williams said that they did that in a district. It was very well received. So it has a lot of potential. I think one of the downsides is it's kind of a quick turnaround, so people really don't have time to really think that through. And it would be really for this year only. Now, we could always explore that again if it was really effective and the staff and the parents thought that was good, then we could continue moving forward as well as the board.
I think in a normal calendar, we have a lot of, we know a lot of things, and this is kind of a unique thing that we really, nobody really knows how this is going to play out. And so I think the flexibility option is, and maybe when do these get approved, maybe in July or June?
Well, we hope maybe the sooner the better. I mean, we certainly don't want to rush and make a poor decision, but we think we need to move it on as quickly as we can, and at the same time making a good decision that our community and our board will support. So, I was hoping maybe in a couple weeks we have a special meeting and talk about that more in depth. And now the word's kind of out there, it'll generate some conversations amongst the community and parents and our staff as to what direction we need to go.
I think for myself, I love that we're looking at alternatives. I think it's good to be proactive and have a plan in place. I think I'd like to understand more about the remediation plan, and does it really get us remediation for our students? I'd like to understand how we're going to capture a voice of the parent. So we had a lot of feedback from the 3-week break last year that didn't work for daycares, and so I don't want to make a snap decision, and we've got parents out there that don't have coverage for their children. So how do we get feedback from parents, like have a voice of the parent forum or feedback on Facebook or whatever the method needs to be? And then how does it align with extracurricular and sports? Like I know, like personally, if we came and it didn't align with sports, then that becomes really hard to support your child in sports if sports goes. Because I can't, how do you do all that travel and everything like that? I can't, and I also can't stay here if we only have limited amount of time off for our own personal vacations and time off to be here for sports. So now I'm pulling my kids from sports if they do go. So I'd like to understand more before we try to make a decision.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll certainly, of course, run that by Coach Moffitt, you know, and we'll certainly ask for his feedback. And as part of the site-based committee, you're going to have some parents on there, community members, as well as faculty and staff. So I think it'll be well vetted and before we bring an actual recommendation to the board.
Well, and I also, sorry, my last thing, as I kind of think through is, I'd also like to understand for our special ed community, if what's better, is continuous school better in the event we can go, or breaking it up better? So how does it help or hurt our special populations?
Yes, that's a good question.
And then with the remedial, does that mean all the teachers are going to work on that week off, or will just a couple work and be paid?
I couldn't give you an exact number. I mean, we'd certainly have to work through that and look at our budget, and I mean, there's a lot of factors we'd have to consider. But certainly we'd want to remediate as many as we could, but at the same time, there's a lot of other obstacles, challenges, variables that we have to consider in making that decision.
As we have that conversation, sorry, one other thing that comes to mind, I think the question has to be asked about, when you have the parent forum, what is their preference, that alternate schedule, or making the decision we would be willing to extend school? Because that's really the trade-off in understanding the pros and the cons.
Very true, yeah. And that probably would not be well received if you have to go all the way through June and then potentially a week or two in July, so. But, you know, we looked at another option too, where you could build those days in, and then I think you'd have the flexibility of not taking those days, and then you could continue moving forward. You know, we could make that decision, you know, a month in advance, depending on, you know, what we've done, and then we could probably get out on time. We don't think that graduation would change the date, but anyway, there's just a lot of things we need to talk about, obviously. But,
Corinne or Judge, do y'all have any questions? Very good,
Very
thank
good.
you.
All right, we'll continue to work on that, and we'll be getting feedback and let y'all know what's going on there. So, also excited to announce that graduation will be face-to-face for both GCHS and FHS. So I've communicated that out, and I think we've gotten that out on to the community. But that will be at the 29th of May at 8:00 p.m. So ask board members to be there a little early so we can really line that out and making sure that we're maintaining social distancing and figure out who's going to hand out diplomas and how that will work. So need a little time to work that out. And right now, GCHS will have their graduation at the same time, the same day, at 6 o'clock at the baseball field. And so I think they have 11 students that will be graduating. And so that's on top of the group that we had earlier in the year. So I think GCHS has continued to do a great job of serving our kids and getting them where they need to be in order to graduate. So excited.
Can I ask a question? For graduation, are we actually handing them diplomas? How will that work?
Well, it should be hands-free, and so, you know, we could just, you know, we wouldn't shake hands, but we would hand it to them. If board members didn't feel comfortable, I mean, we could look at other options as well.
I'm thinking more about protecting the students. Like if I had it, I don't think I should be touching somebody's diploma and then they're touching it. I don't know how biology works. That was not one of my best classes in high school. But I don't know, something to consider, because if they touch where we've touched, we've passed. So.
Maybe we can entertain wearing gloves or whatever. I mean, Dr. Love can help us out with that one.
Yeah, I would be willing to, I think, as opposed to us sitting up on stage like we, you know, and handing diplomas out, I would encourage us to be part of the, you know, the folks who help make sure folks get seated appropriately and such as that, as opposed to, you know, I mean, ceremony isn't about us and us being on stage.
That's right.
The ceremony is about the 200-plus kids who, you know, who are graduating and their lives have forever been changed, you know, these last couple months. I don't see a huge benefit to any of us being up on stage in the middle of that, so.
And we weren't going to put everyone on stage, actually. We were going to have seating behind, and then so one person could come up and do that, or
Yeah, I mean, we can visit about it after this meeting. I mean, I agree with Lance. I feel sorry for all these graduates and what they've been through, but I am thankful for Joe Gonzalez and Dalen Kirshner for working hard and putting this together with your help and their staff's help and making it happen for the kids. That means a lot.
Yeah, that's very important, so.
Are they going to proceed in? Because I was thinking if they have to go every 6 feet, 230, are they just going straight to their seat?
Well, Mr. Gonzalez is working all that out, and I didn't ask
It took a long
for
time.
every detail, but he's certainly aware of social distancing and communicating that, I know, effectively to the students. So, I mean, that's something we take very seriously, and they'll have people there dressed, you know, the police will be there just trying to monitor and making sure that we follow the required and necessary protocol.
Like normal, we show up and do what we're told.
And Dr. Love, my other question is, we're putting 700 people in one setting. Is there any danger to that?
I mean, there's inherent danger, yeah, but, I mean, the reality is TEA has vetted this graduation plan, and so, I mean, insofar as, you know, our state's education leader has said, I mean, it's an acceptable plan.
Yeah, you can go onto the TEA website on the COVID response page, and they outline very specifically, you know, the protocols or recommended protocols for a outdoor graduation ceremony. So,
I think we're fortunate that we have a large venue, you know, where we can, you know.
We've traditionally been
we can-
outdoors.
Yeah, where we can respect social distancing.
Right, I was just thinking if it's a windy night and, you know,
Yeah, and it usually is graduation.
thank goodness.
I hope there's a little breeze. If not, it's going to be awful hot. So.
But we're not requiring people to wear masks as they're socially distanced?
I know that is optional. I know that they have to self-assess, and they have to sign off on that prior to entering the graduation ceremony. So there'll be a lot of protocols and a lot of ways that we'll be protecting everyone. And then at the same time, it is optional, so if someone doesn't want to go, they don't have to go, you know, so that's always an option.
And so, Jeff, for those that are listening, it's still a student plus 2.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. And then the necessary staff will be there to kind of help coordinate.
Any other questions?
Just a couple other things too I want to share. So the end of year convocation, we have canceled that. Right now, the plan is to have a caravan. Mr. Finn has worked out the details there, so we're pretty excited about that. So that'll be next Friday, if any board members want to follow the caravan. And so we're going to recognize those retirees. There have been some that have opted out. So we're super excited about that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And then we'll also at that time probably recognize our teachers of the year, and then our employee of the year as well. Principals, again, they're working hard. They're implementing plans to begin finishing out the school year. And so grades will be finalized, I believe, this week. Now, some of you might think, well, that's kind of early, but this is traditionally what we've always done, because it does take time in order to go and finalize the grades and verify the grades. But from now to the end of the year, then, we're encouraged to do what we call enrichment learning, again, which normally at this time of year, you know, kids are taking field trips, and there's lots of other approaches to learning that are taking place. But that is occurring. The principals, assistant principals, directors, and assistant superintendents, they return back to school today. We are allowing them some flexibility if there are some extenuating circumstances up until June 1st. Then June 1st right now, the plan was that everyone will come back to work. If they miss, then they'll have to take a personal day. The staff, of course, they're kind of rotating, and we're following the executive order number GA-21 as presented by the governor. And so they, really encourage people still to work remotely when they can. So again, we're kind of having people rotate through based on an as-need basis to successfully finish up the school year. We've also had a great principals meeting last week. We're starting to develop, of course, an action plan for next year. There's a lot of questions as we gain more clarity of what school will look like. Of course, we always hope that we'll have a regular school year. But at the same time, we've got to be prepared for ramping up our remote learning. If we go with remote learning, we're also, again, of course, looking at different calendars, but also different schedules. So we may have a situation like we will be having in summer school where kids will rotate. You can't have more than 10, 11 kids per classroom, and you have to maintain that social distancing. So if that is enacted and we have to follow that, then we're going to have some alternate schedules as well. So principals have already started working with their counselors to come up and to see what would work for their campus. Again, so many decisions have to be made, but anyway, we'll be working on that over the next month, and we'll keep you all up to date on where that goes as well. So had some great conversations, a lot of planning that needs to occur.
I just don't want to make a connect point here. So as we talk about technology and looking at alternate schedules, is one of the other alternatives that we need to discuss with parents being technically savvy and running concurrent classes, so whether it's in Ingenuity and Zoom, or whether it's Ingenuity at the high school level, such that you could keep the traditional schedule but go to a different platform. So I feel like that wasn't, we've discussed an alternate schedule, we've discussed an alternate schedule to allow for the classroom, but we haven't discussed alternate platforms for delivery. So I want to make sure as we talk about what's best for our district, we flesh out what are all the real true alternatives that are best for the students and best for the parents and best for the teachers.
Thank you. Great feedback. Also, we did get some news today from the governor that we can't have summer school, but again, you have to limit that number to 10. And certainly we want to, we're required to have summer school for our bilingual ESL students, kindergarten, first grade learners. Again, there's 6 pages of protocols that we have to follow. And so we just was told that today. So Ms. Rivera and Ms. Dietrich will be working through that process. High school will have, of course, some summer school for those students who need credits. They'll be utilizing the Ingenuity. The middle school right now is not planning on having summer school, but they are planning on creating a additional period each day that they will remediate students because there was so much instruction lost. And I'm pretty excited too, the elementary, what we're planning on there, TEA has come up with a new learning format called 2.0. And essentially, we've heard great feedback about it. They had a 1.0 that some schools used as packets to educate their kids, but the 2.0 is more of a summer school curriculum. And so Ms. Ward is looking into, again, identifying which kids would most benefit, those that are most at risk, and then contacting those parents. And then basically, it's not too expensive. You order it, they send it directly to those students, and the student works through the packet over the course of the summer school, and then they can send that back to the campus for feedback. So that's just another way that we're trying to reach out to educate our kids over the summer school. We are limited on our funding, but again, this is something that we can do that has a minimal expense, but can have a significant impact on our kids.
Can we go back to the middle school? So how will those students know that they're eligible to opt in to additional support? And can they opt in for 2 to 3 weeks to have real-time Algebra 1 instruction? Because it was just Ingenuity teaching them the end of Algebra 1. I'm just using that for an example. So I love the idea of the elementary school, but how does that deal with our middle school population, specifically middle school English? Can everybody opt in and use that time to catch up? Can I send my kid and say, hey, I don't think you're at level, go. So what does that look like for middle school?
They'll be doing some assessments to know where the gaps lie with the kids.
But how do they do that? The kids are at home now.
Well, that'll be probably happen at the beginning of the year, as I've heard some discussions there.
But I thought this was over summer. I'm sorry, maybe I didn't.
No,
keep
the middle
track.
school's not having any summer.
They're not having any catch-up? Because I thought you said.
They're going to build that into the schedule next school year.
Oh, it's in
and
the
have
school.
remediation time each day for.
There's no remediation at the middle school this summer.
Not for the summer, no. They're going to build that into the calendar next year.
What happens to the kids that are going from middle school to high school? Where does that remediation happen?
Then the teachers, the freshman teachers then would remediate them as needed. They would just fire all that instruction in or reteach those texts or whatever they need to do to catch those kids up. But those are some good questions. I'll follow up with Ms. Wallace and to see what her plan is there. Okay?
Yeah, that does cause me to pause. I do feel like our middle school population, based on STAR results, and I know we couldn't take it this year, is an area of opportunity as a district. And it feels like if we are going to spend money on remediation this summer, it feels like that may be a lost opportunity to not do something for the middle school kids, even if it's just opt-in. And, I say that as looking at our STAR results, talking with parents, it feels like that's an area of opportunity.
Yeah, I would echo what Kelly's saying from the middle school. I think we got to have a close pulse on that based off of recent historical performance. Are we doing anything to incentivize kids to take, I saw online where you could take something similar to a STAR test. If you were a parent, you could encourage your kid to take it and see if they were at grade level at the end of all this. Are we encouraging parents to use that state assessment to figure out if their kid is on target or not, or behind target? I mean, we
Yes.
don't need to cause any more anxiety and angst, but I do think we need, as a parent, I think it's potentially a good resource to gauge if the last 9 weeks was how effective it was.
Right, well, it won't be mandatory, but certainly that'll be posted on the website, and students will be encouraged to take that, but it won't be mandatory.
So does the school district get any of those results to help us gauge where kids are?
Yes, it's my understanding that that will be shared with the district, yes.
Any other questions?
No, thank you for taking our feedback.
That's all I
Good
have.
on that, Jeff? So,
The grade resolution. There's also an update on resolution for grades.
Yes, so at our last board meeting, there was some great conversation about our AP exams and how that would be handled, and so we have actually placed that course into administrative policy. So those students who take the AP exam and score a 3 or higher, then 0.5 points will be added to their GPA. And students have already started taking their AP exams, so that schedule's out there, and there was some issues with some students about actually taking that at home, then downloading their responses, but I think that's been fixed, and so hopefully that'll flow smoother for the future AP exams.
Thank you.
And we're going to skip district enrollment attendance because we.
So I did see, I did have a question about district enrollment attendance. I saw we were down 4 students. Does that mean that 4 students withdrew through this whole COVID-19 experience?
That is correct, yes.
anything else, Jeff?
No, sir.
So under board business, the Summer Leadership Institute participation, so I guess that's going online now, and I guess I need to get with Patricia to see what that looks like, but that's kind of where it's at, and talk about how, if we all want to get involved in that and what we want to do.
Is our
Any
school
thoughts or
district-
ideas?
Well, I was just going to ask, is our school district still expected to present?
I believe that we are on the road to do that, and so that was the reason to put that on there, to make sure the board still wanted to move forward with it, even though it's being done remotely. And Mr. Cornett?
I think it actually presents a better opportunity to actually prepare something ahead of time versus a standard stand up in front of a room in a PowerPoint. And they've already created some videos through Nextstream with the 4IP people. And so I think without having everybody go to San Antonio, I think that can actually be done remotely in some interviews, and they'll probably have to trim most of it in order to fit it in our time slot.
Right.
So that's not an issue. It's, how do we attend the conference, or what does that look like,
Right. And as far as the kids, would it be something that's pre-recorded, or?
So they've already got some that's pre-recorded.
Okay.
And they were asking me last week, and I said, let me figure all this out. And because they were asking, are we still going to San Antonio? And so now that we know we're not going to San Antonio, we can probably do it here better, and even video some of the existing structures and so forth.
Sure.
I think it's an opportunity to actually have a better presentation.
Sure. Well, I'm good with that if Corinne, good. Judge, Dr. Love, Kelly?
As long as the kids are game to do it another way, and they're,
I'm sure they will be, yeah.
Natalie?
Right.
Well, Jeff, if you don't mind, if we could maybe get with Patricia on that and kind of remind everybody of the dates, the times, and then we can all kind of coordinate and figure out what we've got to do to get that together.
Well, that'll be, that's fine. As far as the attending the conference is a different thing. And what does that look like?
It's all online.
Correct. Is it online live or online recorded?
I don't know, that's what we've got to find out about. Yeah. Why don't let's let Jeff get us an update on that, Mark, and then we can kind of talk about it through email if that's okay with everybody. Under board business, I have a couple other things I wanted to address. First of all, I want to apologize to everybody in this room for the undue stress caused by the misinformation and lies by KXAN. It's personally hurting to me that they would come out and outright lie about something like that. This district and community are dear to my heart. I would never intentionally hurt anybody in this room or anybody in this district. I just want everybody to make sure the air is clear on this. The second thing is the misinformation on Facebook. I want to address something that came up. This board has not had any preemptive discussions concerning not going back to school in the fall. I want to make that perfectly clear. This school board has full intentions of following the state mandated guidelines and returning to school this coming fall. Lance, you have any?
Yeah, I would like to address this as well, because it was my name that was used in this social media post. And number one, I am categorically denying anything and everything that individual attributed to me saying. Number two, I don't even know this person. I've never met them. I've never spoken to them. I've never communicated with them electronically or in any other way. And for that individual to use I couldn't pick him out of a 3-person lineup. For that individual to use my name in a destructive manner like that is irresponsible. I think it's cowardice, and I find it personally offensive. And that's not how I conduct business. I will say I had a couple people email me after they read this post, and then some people texted my wife too. And I appreciate people contacting us directly because, that's how you nip misinformation like this in the bud. But, for it to come from an individual who I couldn't pick out of a 3-person lineup, it's asinine. Thank you.
You bet. Judge?
I just agree. I just think, and things like that can get out very quickly, and misinformation, and people were calling me as well, and none of what they were telling me they knew was true. So, but again, most people that called me, that we could get it straight with them, but that's not everybody.
Right. Corinne?
Nothing further to add.
Natalie?
I just would like to say that, we're here and we're open to any comments or questions people have, and please ask, don't just assume things.
Mark?
I think we're here for the kids, and that's the way we always are, and
Agreed.
I don't, none of that stuff bothers me. If it's,
Kelly?
I would just say, if you need information, reach directly out to us. We are a straight board, and we shoot it straight, and we share it straight, and then you're welcome to watch it online, or you're welcome to attend when we come back to meetings, but come to the right forum to voice your opinion. This is the right forum to voice.
You bet. Agreed. Jeff, Assistant Superintendent's report.
Well, if we do that on the board business too, we would like to recommend to have 2 budget board meetings, one on 6/1 and then one on 6/8. And I don't know if 5:30 works well for y'all, but
6/1 and 6/8?
Yes, sir.
Are those the only days we have?
Well, we're just, if it doesn't work, I need to let us know, and we can try to come up. Usually Mondays when we meet, and seems to work best for the board. But if there's another day that works for us holistically as a board, then, need to direct us in that manner.
Can we push it back to 6 o'clock? I work sometimes till 5:15, and getting here at 5:30 is a challenge, even more so. So
Ms.
at
Almers,
6
does that work?
o'clock,
6
it would
o'clock,
help a
yes.
whole lot on my schedule.
Those dates look good for everybody?
And we're meeting on the 8th anyway.
Is that our regular board meeting?
The
on
8th
the
is a regular
8th?
board meeting. Okay.
Jeff, why don't we follow up with, if you could have Patricia just follow up with an email tomorrow, just to make sure everybody has time to check their calendars, just to make sure, because I think it's important that we have the whole board there with everything that's at hand.
Send out an Outlook calendar invite, that's always nice.
Okay. Okay, Assistant Superintendent's report, Operation and Personnel.
All right, first of all, we have Mr. Donnie Finn, so.
Oh, I love it.
This is the reason why I did not get on Facebook. Operation side, I was asked to look at maybe get some bids on replacing the competition bleachers in the main gym at the high school. Bids be due on May 27th. After meeting with the high school administrators and coaches, it looks like the best window for this project, if approved, because all the manufacturers have closed down where they get their bleachers from, and a couple people said they can't get nothing here until mid-September. That's not gonna work. So I met with Joe and Lance and some coaches, and we're looking at if y'all approve the bids, we're gonna try and do it March 6th through April 6th. Career and Tech Building update was also asked to look at getting some projects done in that. We're getting JM Lowe, we already met with him, and we walked the whole entire building. They're gonna give us a price, and we're replacing the ceiling, the lights, doing some painting, and replacing the floor. We're thinking about just tearing all that tile up and just doing polished concrete. They did the testing. There's no asbestos in that building, so that is good. We'll get the price on that on Tuesday. Auxiliary gym, if you've been in that old gym, you notice that tile, that stuff's coming off the ceiling. We're looking at them to replace that, but ITS is going to come in and take all the lights back down and put them back up. So we're looking at that. Also was asked to see what the price would be to get HVAC in the elementary gyms, the middle school plastic gym, and the Stonewall gym. I don't know how much, we have a certain amount of dollars left over from the bond, and we'll just have to decide what we want to do on that. That'll also be here on Tuesday. Playground mulch. We're putting mulch down on top of the rocks, removing the rocks around, like on the running track. The price for that is $29,000 to do all of them, but it's $10,500 just for the freight, because it's all these 18-wheelers they got to bring in. So Mr. Porter's working on that. Furniture, have some money left in the bond from furniture. What we decided to do is we'll do 4 total classrooms at the middle school, 4 total classrooms at the high school, and do it on a rotating basis. And so eventually we'll get pretty new furniture in there. The teachers requested the sleigh desk. If you know what the sleigh desk is, that's where the kids can get in on both sides. It's not a right-handed or left-handed desk, and they can put them together for collaborative learning. That's what they want. They cost a little bit more, but that's what they want. That's what I want to give them. I spoke to about 25 teachers, and that's what they like. We're also ordering some teacher desks and chairs and selected shelving. We're also ordering some furniture for a new first grade class at the primary, some more computer lab tables, and a special education at the elementary. Stonewall has requested some new shelves and tables as well. At the Billy Stadium and the gym, we're going to repaint all that area that you see. We're going to paint the whole entire back of the gym and the back of the bleachers. And we're going to paint the entire gym in the competition. Sidewalks, I'm working on getting some measurements and quotes for some sidewalks across the district. Brandon and I are going to work on that next week. Dr. Brazier is going to bring forth 3 recommendations tonight. After this, we'll have 28 openings. We have 12 professional, 3 of them are bilingual. The elementary and primary principal, Ms. Rivera, They will have a Zoom interview set up with 2 bilingual teachers from Mexico. We're using a company called International Expert Resources. Their program is mainly for exchange teachers to experience the life in the U.S. under exchange visitor visa, which allows them to work at a school for 3 years and possibly extend 2 more years for a total of 5 years. They do all the paperwork on that for the visa. We had a current today, an ESL teacher pass bilingual, so there's one. And I have another aide that's on our Grow Your Own program who's about to take the test. Then I had another application, so I might have too many apps now. That's good. After this, we'll have 5 aides, 2 custodians, 2 daycare workers, 4 school nutrition, and 3 bus drivers. Daycare. For this summer, we're reopening June 1st, but we're still waiting to get information from the state on guidelines for rules for essential staff. I don't know if teachers are going to be essential staff since they're not working in June, so I don't know what the rule is, but Ms. Weaver is contacting the state to find out which people can drop their kids off. And as soon as we know this, we'll advertise in the paper and on the radio, and hopefully we'll start recruiting some kids. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
I guess my question is around the desk and the furniture for the bond. In light of the unknown for the fall, should we be looking at buying furniture, or should we be pausing on that in the event we have to buy furniture that is more accommodating towards screens to maximizing our classrooms? I'm just curious about that.
I think, talking about like for technology?
I'm talking about classrooms that are now have the plexiglass. I know I've seen them, like the dividers between desks for small spaces. So if they come out in the fall, I just hate to equip a bunch of classrooms with furniture and then the specs for furniture in the fall potentially could be different.
I just see what the guidelines are. Because if I don't order them soon, they won't be here in time. So we can just put a pause on that and wait.
Well, I guess kind of along those same lines, do we have any idea if we have to go to social distancing in the fall, what it would cost and what equipment we need to retrofit our classrooms to accommodate those distances and provide protection to the students and to the teachers? I think before we go spending money on athletic facilities especially, we need to be focusing our funds on health and safety.
Yeah, Ms. Ford and I were just talking about that today, about what the classroom's going to look like in the future. We didn't know, and he was going to, I think he had a Zoom conference this afternoon, like a little Hill Country operations. So we're still looking at all that.
So for those things that you presented tonight, what voice does the board have in approving those or to go forward? Or is it for awareness, or do we have a vote into what's approved for where the bond money goes? Because I think our focus in the fall, number one focus will be safety for the kids and teachers and staff. And I guess I'm concerned that list was built before COVID.
Well, we'll certainly consider any needs that the campus principals or the teachers want or need in order to move forward. Generally, it's just for informational purposes, but I think it's for feedback, and I think we'll certainly, consider and maybe ask that question specifically as we're starting to develop our action plan, and have them dig a little deeper. I'm sure they've already had some conversations, but we'll look into that and we'll give y'all feedback as to what direction. But I still think that we have needs, and we know that we won't be in this pandemic forever. So, I hate to set everything aside, but if there are needs, that would certainly take a priority over some of these other things that we're doing as we move through this process.
Well, and like the HVAC systems at Stonewall and at elementary and at middle school and those gyms, that makes sense to me, because if we ever have to convert those into additional learning spaces, then they're at least conditioned learning spaces, and it makes it comfortable and it gives you that option to convert them. Whereas right now, when they're not conditioned, I wouldn't want my child sitting out there in 90 to 100 degree in a gym trying to learn math or science. So I think when we start thinking through our priorities, we have to think through it through COVID eyes now. And how do we maximize our spaces, and how do we keep it as safe as we can for what could be our fall or next year scenario?
Yeah, I agree, and I love sports, and I am praying every night that they go in the fall. But I guess when I look at that list, I cause pause for bleachers in an old gym that I've sat on and they worked fine, when not knowing what we're gonna have to spend money on the fall to be current with safety issues. So, yeah, I guess I really do support doing a scrub of the list to understand our priorities as we know more in the next month. So thank you for hearing that out.
Thank you, good feedback.
Any other feedback? Thank you, Donnie. Next, 10B, Business Office.
Yes, Ms. Almers.
Well, I think that the information that was put under my area had to do with the requests from the city regarding well, first I thought it was the tax rate, but then they're talking about appraisals, about limiting or reducing those due to the impact on the economy with COVID-19. And so I think those are some of those attachments. And the one that says resolution, and I can't get it opened up, but I believe when I read it, that was from the city trying to get the different entities to band together and to let the state know that we want the appraisals to be held constant. And then I heard something on the news this morning from the governor wanting to reduce the property tax rates, all due to the COVID-19. And so I know you guys are going to discuss this, but just to bring a little bit of information forward so that you can take this under consideration. With the change in the funding formula that we already had for this year, for 1920, and that will be also in 2021, the structure was such, not only for us, but for cities and counties as well, that we are limited to an increase. They have a much bigger increase that they can have than we can have, but we were limited to an increase. And so in our case, because the appraisals already came out, right? The initial levies and the values came out. And because we have traditionally increased in value, our tax rate is going to be compressed. Now, we don't know exactly what that will be. The state will put that out in August, long after we've adopted our budget. So we will be compressed, and just in what I'm looking at now, so in 1819, and we had been for many, many years, we were at $1.04 on the M&O, right? 10.62 on the debt service for a total of $14.62. So we'll just talk about the M&O part because the INS is staying the same. So for the M&O current year, right now, 1920, we were compressed down to 97 cents, from $1.04 down to 97 cents. And the idea is, if we're not holding at the level of funds that we need, based on all the calculations with the formulas, the state will make up the difference until 2025, and then all bets are off. But there's been talk whether the state is really gonna honor that for the second part of the biennium, because they have to honor it, but with what money? The state's coffers are down between oil and gas and sales tax revenues. Their revenues are down. So we're not sure that they're going to honor it for the second year of the biennium, but we think they will. And we think that they're going to continue to compress our tax rate. Now, who knows? They could go into a special session and decide differently. Because right now, that 97 cents that we have this year on M&O, based on, with our appraisals and what it looks like at this point in time, which is very early in the game, but it looks like we're going to be compressed down between 87 cents and 92 cents. So we're going to come down. We already came down this year 6.5%. We're going to come down probably another 5% on the tax rate. So we're already going to be doing that unless they change the rules. And so I'm not sure exactly why the governor said what he said. I mean, if your values are rising, your tax rate's going to be compressed. If your values are not rising, which does happen in certain areas, they're going to be compressed some, but not as much. So, but I think what the city is asking is for appraisals to be held constant. Okay. So, because there's lots of pieces to these formulas, right? So, if this board wants to support that, everybody's banding together and telling the state, keep appraisals the same, okay? And if that is a state decision, keep appraisals the same, then I don't feel that we would be impacted by that. Because if the state says it's the same, then it's the same. And the comptroller would not be able to come, I'm guessing, crystal ball, the comptroller would not be able to come on the back door and say, oh, you're not meeting what we feel the calculations are of the appraisal increase. Because if we don't meet that requirement, the presumption is we've collected the taxes anyway. So if we support this and send this to the governor and it's collective as the state, we all want to do this as a group, and the comptroller is not going to come and audit us and tell us differently, then we're good. But if this is not collective, and if there was some way, and I don't know if there is, for the people of Gillespie County to force the appraisal district to keep the appraisals the same, and it's not a state thing, it's just a Gillespie County thing, then we lose. Because the comptroller would still be expecting those appraisals to be accurate. So if it's statewide and we're all just going to go in together and support it, we'll be fine. But not if we're going to be renegades.
So a couple questions. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So if our appraised values stay the same, then there's likely no compression of the rate, correct? Because we're going to need the same amount of funds that we got this past year for the next year. So instead of, it'll be compressed from 104 to 97, but it's not going to be compressed to that 87 to 92.
It might be. It might even go a little further down.
If the values stay the same?
Yes, because the state might make up the difference.
Okay.
So not sure exactly, but it might. Yeah, it still might.
Do we have any information from the appraisal district about where the increase in value is coming from? If it's coming primarily from new construction and new things coming online, or is the increase in our appraised values coming from comp sales? Do we have any kind of breakdown of where those values are coming from yet?
Yes, I received the first valuations the end of April, so a couple weeks ago, and it's a combination of those different things. Normally because we're the big boys in the whole group, normally our valuations are pretty good even at this April time period. They do change a lot by the time we get certified values, and certainly by the time the tax bills go out. But the numbers actually looked a little low to me, I thought, compared to what we've seen in prior years. But it's a combination of increases in value and new items. It is a combination, yes. And so I was thinking about providing that. Normally I wait till the budget time, but it's to make this decision. I don't know that it's really relevant, because it's just a matter of if this resolution, if you decide to pass this and say, okay, we're going to let the state know our thoughts, everybody's appraisals stay the same, we'll be fine. It's just if that doesn't happen and then they say, okay, we're just going to do it for Gillespie County then. That won't be fine. Because the state will come in and they'll audit us and we will not meet the state's values, because the last 2 years we have barely skimmed. We've been 5% below, just right over 5%. So we barely met the grade the last 2 years. So if we didn't increase and we were supposed to increase, we will not pass. And then it means state's values are the values, and the presumption is you've collected taxes up here, but you've really only collected them here, and they don't care. The difference you just don't have.
Yeah, it comes out of our pocketbook, not the state.
Correct. It comes out of our pocketbook. So, and we will see some values. I'm going to get some updated values, so when we have the budget meetings. But on the value, we would just need to make sure that and I looked at the resolution, but I didn't study it. If it's just, okay, as a group, the whole state, this is what we want, then you'd be fine. Now, it's going to affect the debt service, for sure. When we try to figure out our capacity for bonds and the bond payment, that is all based on increasing appraisals, because that's traditionally what we've had. And so every year we figure out how much money we're going to be getting in to pay our bonds. So if appraisals did not increase, and if the calculations did not look like we would bring in enough bond revenue, we would have to increase the debt service tax rate. Because when they are voting on bonds, they're voting that we can tax them at the rate that we need to in order to pay the bonds. We estimate the values, we estimate what the revenues are going to be. We have traditionally collected a lot of delinquent every year. So we have a little wiggle room, and we do have a fund balance as well to help us through, especially if we would need to, for a couple years, really, to help us with the small amount of the decrease you would have. So it would have an effect on that, but if this is something that the board wants to support for the community as a whole and the state as a whole, that's the key, the state as a whole.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the reality is if we pass this resolution this evening, we're recommending that the state and the legislature, the governor, et cetera, consider this. We're not saying we're going to do this. We're making that recommendation. We're not saying that we're going to go out as a rogue district and suspend valuation.
Right. I think you're telling the governor that we would support this.
Right.
Right.
So
As long as it doesn't go the other way.
By doing this, we don't marry ourselves to this.
I believe that's correct. I would just want to make sure that the city and the county are very clear, and I think it's mostly the city, they're very clear that that's what we could support, is that if the whole state did it, not just us.
Any other questions for Deborah?
I'm not seeing a resolution other than example resolutions from Kerrville. Is there some other attachments?
I think that's what was sent.
Okay, okay.
I just shared with what was sent to y'all to see
Okay.
how y'all wanted to proceed.
Well, I don't think there'd be an action item to take tonight anyway, but I think it's a consideration that we could have a discussion of. The second thing, even if we do pass a resolution, the state's not in session, so they can't actually, unless they called a special session, they wouldn't be able to take action anyway. So I think it's something to kick the can down the road into our budget season and see how this plays out. I'm sympathetic to it. It becomes a real big issue if we hit another thump in the fall.
If, did they ask for any kind of a date, a deadline, when they were sending that information? The city and Biederman also sent his information.
I forwarded everything I've received to the board, so.
I mean, I think before we could pass a resolution, we actually have to have one drafted. So that would be something that, at most, we could recommend drafting a resolution for some action in June or July.
Kelly, anything? Dr. Love? Judge? Corinne?
I guess before we would make that recommendation to draft the resolution, I would want to understand.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I would want to understand the breakdown of what's causing the increases between construction and just comp sales. The reason being is, think about it, if you're in Boot Ranch and you just built a $5 million home and it didn't complete until this past year, it's not equitable to every taxpayer then, because you're not paying your fair share. And so I really need to understand how much of our tax increase is from new construction, because to be equitable to other taxpayers, those who went and built a new structure, in my mind, should have to pay their fair share of property taxes because they had the funds to build this new structure. And so that's why I really want to understand the breakdown of what is driving our increase in values before we take a stand on it.
Deborah, is that something you could look into? Because I do agree with Corinne. I mean, if somebody finished something and they're going to go back to last year, which was 0, that's not correct. But those that have properties that have been there, I mean, we do need to look at it.
Yeah, we do get that breakdown. What I don't know is on this resolution that they're proposing, if it's separating that. If it's only saying existing or it's saying all, I don't know. It wasn't clear, yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought that resolution was more with the entire state in mind, and meaning that the only places that are anticipated in the state for values, that at least the big cities, which this I only read, but is Austin. Austin values are continuing to go up through that, but the majority of the state values are expected to go down. And so by passing this, it allows there to be more money, this is what I understood, within the school districts, because they aren't going to decrease the following year. Does that make sense? Because the large cities, that's what I read. All the major metropolitan areas within the state of Texas right now, valuations are down. I mean, except for Austin.
Well, it's the value as of January 1.
Right, so it would affect the following year, is my point.
Following year.
Yes.
Which in my mind, come January 1st, 2021, you're going to see it go down. If everything plays out as this economic recession is presenting itself. And so you're going to see that decrease in value, not this tax year, but the following tax year.
Yeah, that's fair, that's fair.
But under the current resolution, Deborah, if you do have time, if you could research that just to answer Corinne's question, I think is important, and to Dr. Love, I mean, if we're going in as a state, I think this board supports that. I mean, if we're going in as renegades, I don't know that's great for the community or their district, so if we could clarify, that would be great. Judge, your thoughts?
I agree. Can the district do that? The appraisal district do it on their own? No. I don't know the rules.
They can do it. This entity can't force that entity to do it. They can do it, but if they do, they know they're hurting school districts because they're not going to meet the audit requirements, when they start doing their own calculations at the state level.
And I mean, that's the catch-22 with our budget being 84%. They hit us, we're going to start losing teaching positions.
Yeah, the threshold, you understand the threshold there if we miss the audit? If the appraisal district misses the audit, it's a death sentence to us.
Well, not quite that bad.
But that's pretty bad.
It's just loss of money.
Wouldn't be good.
It's
A lot
just-
of money.
It's just straight loss of revenues, yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, look into that, Deborah, and then we can, maybe through email, talk about this a little bit more, because we do want to get whatever relief we can get for our people in this community, no question.
And I do think that our tax rate's going to be compressed.
That's great.
So that happened this year, but their tax bill still went up because the values
Value.
went up more than the compression. Now, it's not the same in every community, but that's what happened here.
When do you think we'll know that final compressed value? Will that be in August or when?
Correct. So we're going to adopt a budget, hopefully at that June board meeting, June 15th, yes. And we're going to adopt it with what I think the tax rate is going to be, and that's how we will, I'm going to put the maximum tax rate on the tax notices, because which was 0.9164 for M&O. And then we'll still add the debt service on top of that. But that way we won't have to have a second budget hearing. We won't have to have put in the paper and everything a second time. But if the tax rate is less by the time we adopt, then we'll just do budget amendments for the difference, because it'll be a shift between state and local funding. So yeah, I think we'll probably compress to the 87 cents, but we'll probably have all the hearing at the 9.9164, and right now it's 0.97. So it's going to be lower, the rate.
As far as GCAT, have you gotten their thoughts or opinions on any of this?
I haven't actually spoken with them since these emails came out here. I spoke with them right before because they're having a hard time getting the appraisals, and then the people that are contesting, they're having a challenge with that. And so I spoke with them about that, but not since this request came out.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Deborah? Okay, Jeff, I guess we'll move on. Curriculum and instruction.
Dr. Stiles not able to be here this evening, but I did cover most of her report and vetted that in our COVID-19 report. So if there's anything else, I'll be sure to send that to you on an email.
All right. Executive session, if during the course of the meeting, discussion of any item on the agenda should be held in a meeting, the board will conduct a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapters D and E. Thank you all for being here tonight.
All right, folks, I'm going to end the meeting, and I'll let y'all know